Alright, you may have noticed as I was walking around, I switched up things. I need you to play along with me. I told you to keep your card for a specific reason. I need you to now match the number with the number on the table. So I'm sorry you all got settled. You found friends. This is an opportunity to find more friends. So what do we got? I know there's 7 right here. There's 5. I think that's 3. Thank you. We got 6 over here, 4 over here, 10, 8, 9, 9. So we have 8 and 2 in the back.
As they scrunched it out.
I appreciate that. No, but you will need your smartphone now. Just for a little bit.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed your presentation.
Maybe you have to like start with 5 maybe there. 9, 7, 5, 3, 1, 6.
What's best? From the chat or
Alright, thank you everyone for favoring me. I really appreciate that. Go ahead. Okay, yeah. Okay, so what we're going to discuss today is a book called The Four Tendencies. It was written by Gretchen Rubin quite recently, actually, and it's kind of more of a personality profile, and I'm really excited to talk about it and to kind of help all of us understand a little bit better about who we are. So, if you have a smartphone, I need you to get it out. It's time to take a quiz. So we've got 10 minutes planned for this. If you don't have your smartphone, we'll leave a tablet. If not, I have a couple of options available, so hopefully, I know there's someone that uses a tablet. So pretty much what I need you to do is I need you to go to that website. You're going to scroll down. It's going to say take the free quiz. You want to take the free quiz. As you're taking it, it's going to go long. I don't have it. It's going to be like at 60-something%. And it's going to ask for like your country. Go ahead and put USA, put your email. If you're not comfortable with sharing your email, you can use the thing that I provided for you. Because I need you to put an email in there, because once you get to the next page, after you provide that email, you're going to scroll down, and it's going to give you a word. It's under the big picture. It's hard to find. Sorry, I didn't create the quiz. The questionnaire was created the quiz. Okay. It's going to be there. It's going to have a word. You're going to have 4 words you're looking for: a polar, questioner, obliger, or rebel. So go ahead, start taking the quiz. Do you need help with that? Okay, I'll bring along my smartphone and see if I can help. So go ahead and take the quiz. Let me know when you guys are like done so we can move on. But if you have any questions, I've been wandering around helping. Just taking a poll, how many more do you have to go? Nothing wrong, just who are still taking it? Okay. And it's kind of quirky, you won't say that you're done once you get your result for the quiz, because that was not clear. It's right underneath the picture. Actually, it's Okay, another poll. How many more to go? Just one? So everyone that did not raise their hand, that means you have an answer. You're either a questioner, a folder, an obliger, or a rebel. Yes? Okay. So we're going to move on. All right. So now you just took a quiz. I'm going to help explain what you just took and why is it so important. All right. So there are 4 tendencies that Gretchen Rubin has kind of come together and she found out. When it comes to expectations, we all face expectations. Outer expectations, those are like deadlines or requests from other people. Inner expectations are like, I want to form this habit or I want to make this New Year's resolution. So they're all coming at us. It's all about how we react to them and whether or not we complete those expectations. So that was the picture that you should have seen. She was able to put it together into 4 different quadrants, depending upon how you react to the expectations. Upholders. Upholders, I apologize. I'm going to stop looking at you and you can be able to hear me now. Okay. Upholders, they respond to both inner and outer expectations. They have no problem doing either. Questioners, they question everything. So they'll only meet an expectation if it works for their inner expectations. And so generally, that's all they meet is inner expectations. But they can help make outer expectations inner expectations. Obligers, they respond readily to outer expectations, but they struggle with inner expectations. And then rebels, they resist all expectations alike. All right, so this is my disclaimer for everyone. In her book, Gretchen Rubin addresses some concerns people have voiced concerning their tendency, and even when I've made my friends and coworkers take this, they've also had like, well, I don't know if I'm actually this, or I don't know if I fit exactly here. That's cool. Truly, if the quiz was taken in the best sense, where you were doing it as more general and less in a particular manner, you're probably going to be your tendency, and you might notice as we go along that, yeah, okay, maybe I fit a little bit more into this specific tendency. Also, when it comes down to it, we each have a little bit of each tendency in us. And all of us will meet an expectation, and we don't want to bear the consequence of ignoring it. So just keep this in mind that we're not trying to pigeonhole anyone. We're not trying to like say that you're red and blue now. It's just another way to help you understand yourself and those around you. All right, so what better way to understand things than through jokes? What I find interesting about the 4 tendencies is that the end result can be the same, like the light bulb jokes, the light bulb will most likely get changed, but it's more the path we took to get there. So, how do you get an upholder to change a light bulb? You've already changed it. How do you get a questioner to change a light bulb? Why do we need a light bulb anyway? How do you get an obliger to change a light bulb? You ask them to do it. How do you get an rebel to change a light bulb? You just do it yourself. All right, so let's start with the upholders. How many upholders? Come on. I want to see the hand. Come on, you're upholders. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so these are some things that may work. So in her book, she goes over likely strengths and possible weaknesses. I like that because it's not like you're going to fit every single one of these strengths and you're going to fit every one of these weaknesses. But you may notice that, yeah, okay, I have been accused of that 1 or 2 times. That could be why. All right, so upholders, they're self-starters, they're self-motivated, they're reliable, they stick to a schedule, whether you want them to or not. They're there for you. Possible weaknesses. They can be defensive, they can be rigid, they can seem humorless and uptight. They often struggle when plans or schedules change. That's just because of how things work. So upholders. For upholders, meeting outer and inner expectations doesn't make them feel trapped. It makes them feel creative and free because they can execute any plan they want. So if you have that friend that's like always on a schedule and you're like, why don't you be spontaneous and have some fun? They are having fun. They're just beat to a schedule. All is well. They don't, because they don't need much outer accountability themselves, they're not sympathetic when other people do. So they're not there to like help move the world along. They're just moving themselves along. Why aren't you catching up kind of thing. So they rarely suffer from resentment or burnout, and they don't depend on others to motivate or supervise them. So they not only meet outer expectations, but they meet their inner expectations. So when they know that they need to start a new habit, they need to learn a new language, they need to lose weight, they can take care of themselves, but they can also take care of the things that are required of them. Well, while other people might be like, wow, what's your problem? Why can't you just be a little bit more lenient? They're totally happy and fine, and they're doing things well. And so that's kind of, so when you're looking at them and you're trying to put yourself in their shoes, they're doing well. There's a thing called upholder tightening, though. She says in her book, when people in the other 3 tendencies try to meet an expectation, they tend to start off strong, but then they slacken over time. They look for loopholes, they find exceptions, they become less conscientious. This can happen with upholders as well, but sometimes upholders can have the reverse experience, a kind of tightening. It becomes harder for them to make an exception, to take a break, to lighten up. That can be good, but it can also be bad. So for example, it might be an upholder's plan to exercise once a week. Then it's 3 times a week, then it's 7 times a week. Then they're running every day, then they're doing a marathon every day. That's not healthy. And so it's just, if you notice that you have that in you where you just get a little too far, she has this advice. She says, remember at a certain point, following tighter and tighter expectations undermines performance and self-mastery. I'm not saying, as I said, not every upholder may do this, but if you notice this in yourself, that's what you're doing, and just remind yourself that it's not beneficial anymore. All right. Questionnaires, how many questionnaires? I am totally a questionnaire. Welcome, questionnaires. Okay, how many of you questionnaires were like taking the quiz and you like were questioning it the whole time? That is so what I did. A girlfriend showed it to me, and as I was taking the quiz, I was like, this is so stupid. What kind of questions are these? Who would ask these questions? And then I got to the bottom. Who is questioning this? You're a questioner. Okay, shut up, I know. So I'm a questioner. Likely strengths, they're data-driven. They're fair-minded, according to our own judgment. They're willing to play devil's advocate. They're inner-directed. They don't mind bucking the system if it's warranted. They can suffer from analysis paralysis, which we'll go into later. They can be impatient with when he or she sees others' complacency. They may be unable to accept closure on matters that others consider settled if questions remain unanswered. And so, yeah, questioners. Okay. So really, questioners, well, upholders readily meet both outer and inner expectations. Questioners meet only inner expectations, and that includes outer expectations that they've turned inner. So that's why it says, I'll comply if you convince me why. If it makes sense to me, sure, I'm totally on board. If not, I have a couple more questions for you. They show deep commitment to information, logic, and efficiency. I do really well in supply chain. And they want to gather their own facts, decide for themselves, and act with good reason. They object to anything they consider arbitrary, ill-reasoned, ill-informed, or ineffective. Because questioners are wholly inward-directed, Once they make up their minds about the right course of action, they'll follow through without much difficulty, and they don't have issues with other expectations coming at them. And this what I thought was kind of cool. They have the self-direction of upholders, the reliability of obligers, and the authenticity of rebels. And so, there we go. Questioners. All right. They want to make well-considered decisions and are often willing to do exhaustive research. Therefore, because they do that research, they usually become resources for people and enjoy sharing their knowledge. Case in point. Okay. So, funny enough, questioners dislike being questioned. As she said, one questioner stated, as a questioner, I'd rather not explain myself or why I'm doing something. We questioners have thought about the logic behind our decision. So either A, it's exhausting to revisit something and lay out all the reasons, and or B, we feel we're right, so we don't feel like we have to justify it to someone else. So if you ever question the questionnaire and they kind of get a little miffed, that could be why. So the questioner impulse to question can become draining though, and paralyzing for both the questioners themselves and those that they work with. And this is sometimes can be known as analysis paralysis. So when you start asking so many questions that you kind of lose the whole point of why we're even asking those questions, these are some steps that you might want to take if you notice that you're doing that. Focus on your ultimate aim. Funny as it is, question your own questioning. Why are you even asking these questions? Why are you going down this tangent when the whole point was to go this direction? Provide a higher reason for sticking to a schedule. She mentions in her book this woman that she knew she kind of had a tendency towards analysis paralysis. So when she met with her clients, she kept herself to an hour schedule and she wouldn't allow herself to go over that. And so it kept her kind of in those limits, restrained, so she didn't go off onto questioning tangents and she allowed herself to get the true information that she was actually seeking. Also, find an expert to trust that you respect. As funny as that sounds, questioners don't always accept, oh, well, I have a doctorate or I'm an expert in this field. They need to do that research to find out that you actually are. And then once you do, go with what that person says, and you won't maybe not get so bogged down with your regular questioning. She says the point really is to seek clarity. When questioners understand truly what needs to go on and what their direction they need to take, they're on board, they're there. And so try to help them find that clarity, and you might find that you both will do fine in getting the information they need and you getting the results that you want. All right, obligers. How many obligers? Nice, look at those obligers. We appreciate you, obligers. You guys are great. They are good bosses. They're responsible. They will be there for you no matter what. Their obligers really help keep the world running, and we really appreciate obligers. But the problem is that they might be susceptible to overwork and burnout. They're exploitable. They may become resentful. And they may show the destructive pattern of obliger rebellion. We don't want that. We want them to be happy. All right, so obligers, they will readily meet expectations imposed on them by others, but they struggle with their own. She says in her book, no matter how much they may want to meet a purely inner expectation, to exercise, to take an online course, to start their own company, they will almost inevitably fail. That's a harsh thing to recognize, but it's true. The good news is that this obliger pattern is easily remedied once an obliger knows how to do it. And I might personally add, you may have already been subconsciously doing it. And how does an obliger meet an inner expectation? By creating outer accountability. So it's kind of a reverse role for questioners. Questioners will do something once they make it their own. Obligers can do something once they make it an outer expectation, and they can do it they can switch around. Hopefully that makes sense. So for this reason, obligers are the ones that can benefit the most from this book and from the information provided in it. Because once you realize how to get those inner expectations done and making them an outer expectation, you'll be amazed at how much more you can get done. All right, so these are sources of accountability. So these are the ways that you want to get that inner expectation completed. You have these ways to help you get that done. So accountability partners. This is pretty much an individual that can help you get that way. Jason, who president of NIGP, we were on our way. We were scheduled to go to a meeting, and he was going to pick me up and drive. We were going to drive together. and we'd already taken this test. And I asked him to be there at 10:40 so we can be there on time. As I'm leaving the building to go to our meeting spot, he is literally driving up at 10:40. And I was like, got in the car. I was like, wow, this is amazing. You're like here at 10:40. He's like, well, I'm an obliger. You and me were counting on me. So Jason's obliger. So he knew that the expectation was I needed him to be there. He was there at 10:40. Accountability groups. These are things like Weight Watchers or Alcoholics Anonymous or things where you don't have to necessarily know them. It can be a group of strangers, but you all of a sudden feel an obligation to be there because you know that they're counting on you. If you know that's how that's going to be, join some more groups, and you will find that you can meet a lot of those inner expectations you want to meet. Client, customer, employee, pretty self-explanatory by the nature of what it is. Benefit to others. One of my girlfriends, she's an upholder, but her husband is an obliger. And so she has to kind of sit him down and be like, it would benefit me if you take care of yourself. As funny as that sounds, it's really how it works sometimes. He knows that for her to be happy, he needs to do those things to make himself happy. And so because it's a benefit to her, it's our accountability. Other creative accountability devices. One of the examples she listed in the book is this lady who, I guess she had a hard time getting up in the morning. And so she set her social media with a very embarrassing Facebook post. And she had an alarm set off that it would go off at 8 a.m. if she didn't turn it off. And so she was motivated to wake up before 8 a.m. so she could turn that off every morning. I thought it was very creative. All right, rebels. How many rebels do we have? Wow, look at that. No, that's cool. I didn't know how many to expect. This is definitely not just the typical work you'd expect. And I'll show you why. Okay. So they're independent-minded. They're able to think outside the box. They're in touch with their authentic desires. They are spontaneous. Their possible weaknesses, though. They don't like to be told what to do. They're uncooperative. They can be inconsiderate. They may act like the rules don't apply. They can struggle with routines and planning. All right, so we each decide whether or not we should meet an expectation or not. Rebels, the answer is very clear. They resist all expectations, outer and inner alike. They want to do what they want to do in their own way and in their own time, and if someone tells them something to do, they resist. They don't even want to tell themselves what to do, so it's not like, they're out to get the world. They don't want to tell themselves what to do. They resist expectations imposed from within as vigorously as they do from without. They do want to act with a sense of choice and freedom and self-expression. Like, when it's their idea, they're on board because it's their idea. It's the best one. They want to do something because they chose to do it. And because it's always their choice. Once it's their decision, they're on board. They'll be there for you. If a rebel is asked to do or told to do something, they're very likely to resist. And that instinct can create problems. But the harder you push, the harder they can resist. So just keep that in mind when working with them. But that doesn't mean that, so sometimes it appears when you're like trying to get a rebel to do something, they don't want to do it. Not that they don't want to work, it's just they don't like to be bossed around and told what to do. So the fact is urging rebels to do something will help them, make them less likely to do it. All right, I'm sorry, I just have to point out, this is my favorite one out of all of them. It says, if you haven't read it yet, if I had to describe myself using like one word, it would be doesn't follow directions. That one just made me laugh. All right, so how do we help rebels do what they want to do, and how do they help themselves do what they want to do? It's very simple. They need information, consequences, and a choice. So we provide the information of what we need them to do so that they can make an informed decision. We can spell out the consequences of what is going to happen, depending upon what path they take. And then we just let them pick. We don't bother, we don't hover. I honestly have no idea what hectoring is, but we don't hector. And this kind of information can be very helpful. She says, example, a boss might say, a client gave us a budget and a month's time to complete this project. Information. If the client is pleased, this relationship might become permanent, which would mean more projects, more great projects, and more money for all of us. Consequence. Does this sound like something you want to tackle? Choice. So things like that can help them make it their own decision, because they like to make their own decision. I know we all like to, but that's just more of their tendency. All right, now is an opportunity to talk to your neighbors. So from the information that I've just provided about you and your tendency, please go ahead and share a weakness and a strength that you kind of noticed with those around you. You've got 7.5 minutes. Go.
Like you said, there's that people have to agree. And I'll get you to I think I have there were some that were, yeah, you couldn't, you go and you decide, yeah, every once in a while. So that's why right, so usually see more that's how I would do it. I would like share
All right, everyone, we're gonna get focused back. I hope you had a nice conversation. And by discussing it, you were able to kind of understand yourself a little bit more. No, I'm really seriously. I know what this never tested. Okay. So I'm glad you guys are able to talk. I'm glad that I had to interrupt you. That means you were having good conversations with probably generally people you don't talk with in the normally. All right, so that's all well and fine, but why do we care? How can we use this to apply it to purchasing, to our customers, to our coworkers? Jerry was just actually pointing out how many questioners and lighters that we have on our team. And hopefully, with that in mind, how can we meet each other's needs and expectations? So I would like some comments. Do you have any examples? Like now that you understand who and what you are, and maybe you can guess who and what your coworkers are, how can that help you or us make things go better, smoother?
I want to know if I have any rubbers on my feet.
Used to.
I know that.
So one of the tables was pointing out, I'm sorry, I don't know your name right now.
It's Vicky.
Vicky. Vicky pointed out that oftentimes when she's talking to people and she's asking them questions, they think that she's arguing with them or she's undermining them kind of thing. And she's not. She just really wants information. She's a questioner in that regard. So hopefully now that she understands who and what she is, and maybe she can help others around her understand who and what she is, people can, when you understand where people are coming from, it's easier to accept what they're trying to say, what they're doing. Any other examples? I throw this on to you and you just try to think about it.
Bobby, just get such a social to have a balanced board considering who else.
Yeah. No, it's good to have, and I was talking to different people and they're like, well, I'm this and this and this, and kind of goes back to my disclaimer. But yes, it's good to have a healthy amount of meeting each and every one of the expectations. We want to do our best to have as many of the strengths and less of the weaknesses, just in general. But I may know that, one of my coworkers is an Elijah, and so I can request something of them, but maybe not request something of them, so that they can have a chance to get what they need done. So, anything else? So I'm going to kind of go into what she had in the book then, and so hopefully this will help you understand how we can work together as coworkers, as purchasing in government, and help each other do better each and every time. So upholders, so they're very self-motivated, so they'll get done what you need them to get done. You can count on them on that. But they can also, because they're getting stuff done, they can get impatient when others struggle to meet expectations, because I've got it figured out. How come you don't? They're not an upholder, so please be patient with us, you upholders. We have to convince ourselves sometimes to get all that stuff done. So an upholder boss may resist answering questioners' questions, saying, we got a memo about the new deadline from corporate, and I'm sure they have a good reason for changing it. Let's stop arguing about it and get to work. Please don't do that. Or an upholder boss may resist building in the systems of accountability needed by obligers, such as setting deadlines or enforcing vacation days, because he or she doesn't understand why it's necessary. It may not be necessary for you, but note that it may be necessary for those individuals, especially if they're asking for that kind of help. So they can be locked into routines and schedules, and they have a hard time getting out of those routines and schedules. So if you are aware of this in one of your coworkers or in like a vendor you're dealing with, keep that in mind. They also may have trouble accommodating to things on short notice. Let's do them a favor and let them know ahead of time when we're going to make changes. This will help things go a lot better. I don't know if I have any upholders. Is this kind of something about right? Yes, no? I'm sorry, I lost the upholders. Where are the upholders? Would you appreciate if people let you know ahead of time when we're making changes? Okay. Let them know, people. Okay. Because they hate to fail, because they hate to fail to meet an expectation, they may find it hard to set priorities. All expectations seem equally important because they want to get it all done. To counter this, a boss or colleague should make priorities clear. Hi, I need this and this done before this. Great. They will get it done. Does that make sense? Comments, questions about upholders and how to work with them? Okay. Questioners. So they love to do research, finding efficiencies, eliminating irrational processes. So they love to ask questions, and they also don't love these kind of responses. When they ask questions, it helps everyone go a lot better if you can provide that information. If you don't know that information, let them know and direct them towards the direction. Once again, kind of like I mentioned before, if you limit how they should be getting their information, it can help force their action. So for example, a manager might tell a questioner who's interviewing people for a new hire to decide by a certain date or to consider only the top 5 candidates. If they know that they have a limit, they're more likely to stick to it and keep going from there. Please understand our need for information. When we're asking questions, we're not trying to undermine authority, we're not trying to bother you, we're just trying to get information. She gave an instance in the book of a teacher who worked closely with 2 other questioners, and he was an obliger himself. And it used to infuriate him daily because they would ask him so many questions and he just didn't know. So he learned, and I'm assuming after he learned that he was an obliger with questioners, to suggest books, websites, or articles that they could consult. So he let them go in that direction. They got all the information they wanted, and he was happy because he didn't need all the information, but they did. All right, obligers. They need to respond well to expectations that work almost inevitably supplies. If you're working with an obliger and they request, please follow up with me in 2 weeks so I can get this done, please follow up with them. They probably are understanding in a sense subconsciously that they need those outer expectations. Once they get those, they'll be on board with you. So I kind of mentioned it before. So obliger rebellion. So this is kind of, this is a thing. Because obligers put such a high value on meeting outer expectations, others may take advantage of them, and if they feel exploited or overworked, obligers may fall into obliger rebellion. They often struggle to say no until they say a big no, and which can be a real problem. So, for example, there's a shirt that I really love, kind of encompasses obliger rebellion. It says, "Sorry I'm late, I didn't want to come." So that kind of thing where they feel obligated to do these things, so they'll go, but that doesn't mean they want to actually do it. So there's different ways that we can keep in mind, because we don't want our fellow obligers to fall into Elijah rebellion. We can establish limits and boundaries on them. We can remind the obliger that saying no allows him or her to say yes to work that's more important. It helps if we can enforce limits, prevent burnout, and this obliger rebellion. We can stop others from exploiting the obliger. We can point out the obliger's duty as a role model, and we can take away from the work from the obliger if the obliger is taking on too much. So especially if you are a manager over an obliger and you notice that they keep saying yes to all these things and you know that they can't quite do all those things, help them out and help them say no. All right, so rebels. They thrive at work when their work aligns with their aims. They can be very productive, but if they're allowed to do their work in their own way. So the less bossing and supervision they get, the better. Though it's also true that paradoxically that some rebels need such structure to push and ignore against. So they need, to go against what you want to do, and then they'll get a lot done also. A rebel explains, in my first job out of college, I worked at a big consulting firm. I had a fantastic boss. He gave me a tough project and said, look, here's a big problem. I don't know how to solve it. You run with it. Get back to me in 3 months with an answer. Call me if anything gets in your way. I did my best work under those conditions. I loved it. But then he left and I got a new boss who wanted to micromanage me. I ended up quitting and starting my own company. Note that this boss's handoff approach, while very effective for a rebel, might not work for an obliger. So I'm not saying that's the perfect way, but that may be, if you notice that you have rebels in your team, point out the objective and let them do it. If you have an obliger, give them steps. Okay, I need this and this and this by this date. If you have questioners, here's all the information. And upholders, I need you to do this. So, this may or may not be a big deal depending upon their workplace as to whether or not, they struggle with mundane repetitive tasks. Once again, remember, information, consequence, choice. Do you have any questions? Any ideas? Hopefully this helps. All right, so just want to thank you guys. I hope that this kind of made a little bit more information and that this helps you kind of understand yourself and those around you so that we can make work a little bit better and maybe in our home life as well. Thank you. All right. Now I gotta close. Isn't that exciting? I feel like I should come back out and pretend it wasn't me that was just talking. Okay. I know that I think Jake has left, but we just really wanted to appreciate once again Jake that was here, and then also Gary in the back for providing the snacks. Thank you very much. So this is about the conclusion of our meeting. Does anybody have any questions or comments before we do? What are you doing with the cards? I want those posted on a plaque. When I come visit you, I need to see. No, I'm just kidding. You can throw those away. Thank you very much for playing with that. I hope you made some good network. Thank you again. Our next meeting will be in September, so it's on your calendar. 9/11.